sense too. In a Freudian criticism, that seems in some real sense too good to be true.
Yeah.
So, and so what do you make of the resurrection? How do you conceptualize it, even as it's related in the Gospels?
Yeah, good. You're raising a lot of interesting things. First of all, everything you said about it in terms of psychological archetypes and metaphors, good, fine. I think those are legitimate. I think those are correct perceptions of things. And it has indeed functioned that way in a lot of the literature of the world, resurrection type stories. But I think what's really interesting about the New Testament, as Lewis said, C.S. Lewis, when someone said, well, the New Testament is just another iteration of the ancient myth. And he said, anyone that says that has not read many myths, because there's something so distinctive about the New Testament. And what I would say, Jordan, first this. I think from the first page of Matthew through Revelation, what you get throughout is this, what I call this grab you by the shoulders quality. They knew about literature that is conveying deep psychological and philosophical truth. Paul certainly knew that literature very well. It doesn't sound like that, though. It has overtones with it. It bears some of that. It has family resemblances with it. But what you find on every page is this euangelion, this good news. So everything you said is true. I think it is true. But it's not exactly news. It's part of the Philosophia Perennis. It's been around for a long time and a lot of the great thinkers of the world. And again, I agree with it. I like the Philosophia Perennis. But the New Testament is people who grabbed everyone they met by the shoulders to say, something happened. Something's happened here that we were not expecting, that was not part of our thought system. And it's so shaken us up that we feel obligated to go careering around the world and indeed to our deaths, announcing it and defending it. And what it was the fact, you hear it in the 10th chapter of Acts of the Apostles, this sort of almost tossed off line, we who ate and drank with him after his resurrection from the dead. I don't think people trading in mythic talk use that kind of language. Mythic language, and again, I say it with high praise. I love the myths. But once upon a time or in a galaxy far, far away, and then a mythic story unfolds. But you read the Acts of the Apostles. Did you hear about what happened? It first was up in Galilee, and then in Judea. Those people, John the Baptist, remember John the Baptist? Well, and then this Jesus, and then in Jerusalem, and then we who ate and drank with him after his resurrection from the dead. That's what, and then look at Paul who saw him on the road to Damascus. Now the Pauline letters, man, they do not read like myths. They just don't. And I love the myths. I love the Philosophia Perennis, but it doesn't read like that. It reads like someone who has been so bowled over by something, and he wants you to know about it, and it's changed everything. And I think what it was what we said earlier. It's, okay, now we know God's mercy and love is greater than anything we can possibly do. Why? Because we killed God. And that's why Paul will say, I'm going to hold up one thing to you, Christ and him crucified. And crucified him, it was the most horrific thing they could imagine in the ancient world. It was deeply embarrassing even to talk about a crucifixion. Paul says, no, let me put it right in your face. See, the author of life came and we killed him. But I got the good news, euangelion, is God's mercy and love is greater because he brought this Jesus back from the dead.
Well, you do have the following argument, which is that it isn't clear which is harder to believe, whether that happened or whether people made it up. Because if they made it up, that was really something. And that does strike me quite frequently reading the New Testament.
Yeah.
There are lines in there that hit so hard you think, it isn't obvious to me how someone could have just thought that up. So, right. And there is that, and Jung, Carl Jung, who I greatly admire, he believed, I think in the same way that C.S. Lewis did, that, and he doesn't talk about this that much, but that there is this archetypal mythological pattern of the dying and resurrecting hero that has this psychological reality, which is extraordinarily deep, but that archetype was realized once in history. And that's fully realized. So it came from the mythic realm, let's say, the realm of eternal truth, the realm of pattern, instinctive pattern for that matter, and was fully realized at one point in history. And you might think, well, if it's going to be fully realized, it has to start somewhere. It can't
Right.
start everywhere at the same time. Or
Right. What does an archetype look like when it takes flesh? Might be a way to get at that.
And the thing is, we do see this, and it does grip us, because movies, like, we see representations of this all the time. In my new book, I talk a fair bit about Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is definitely an archetype
Christ figure. Yeah.
taken flesh. Well, clearly he's in battle with Satan himself, obviously. I mean, and she has an unbelievably profound mythological imagination. And the thing that's so fascinating about all of that is that because her mythological imagination is spot on, she captivated the entire globe and produced this immense storehouse of wealth and dominated the entertainment landscape for a decade. And people don't take that seriously, but it's a great mystery to watch that. Absolutely, they should. It's a phenomenal. Anything that grips people's attention like that is obviously worth paying attention to. So
Emma, right? Lewis called them good dreams, right? So all the sort of archetypal anticipations of the gospel, they're the good dreams of the race. Or use the Jungian. I love Jung too. But what happens if that archetype of the person perfectly pleasing to God, Kant's language, what would happen if that archetype became flesh? And indeed, that's how they put it. The word became flesh and dwelt among us.
I think that's also the question we should each be asking ourselves in our own lives.
Yeah, quite
it's like, well, who could we be? And you say, well, you don't have to ask yourself that question. It's like, well, good luck with your conscience then.
You should be another Christ. That's right.
The objection to the self-created person. It's like, the idea that you can create your own values is, well, good luck.
Right.
Try.
Good luck with that project.
Yeah,
right.
Good luck.
Right.
It's not going to work.
Newman referred to the conscience, I always love this, as the aboriginal vicar of Christ in the soul. So he took the language descriptive of the Pope, the vicar of Christ, but he said the aboriginal vicar of Christ.
Which
is
Newman?
The conscience. John Henry Newman.
Okay, because I was thinking of Eric Neumann. So
no, John Henry Newman, and it's a beautiful way of describing it, because we'd say the Christ dwelling within you is the voice of the conscience that's calling you to sanctity, ultimately, to heroic self-sacrifice, to being who Christ is.
It also is. It is what people worship. Because here's a way of thinking about it technically. Well, look, when I have a conversation with you, there's something I want from you. I want everything you can give me. I want you to be as there as you can possibly be. That's what I'm demanding all the time. If my attention, assuming a properly